According to the International Diabetic Federation Diabetic Atlas 9th edition 2019, it was estimated that 463 million lived with diabetes in the year 2019. If no sufficient action has been taken, it is predicted that the numbers will rise to 568 million living with diabetes in 2030. It will continue to rise to 700 million people living with diabetes by the year 2040. Welcome to our first episode of the Diabetic series. My name is Mutsama Kurumize. I'm a final year medical student from the Midland State University, Zimbabwe, and I help sick people, providing them with information pertaining their particular health conditions so that they live life in their best possible health state, and not forgetting to point them to Christ, our great physician, even if they have or they're about to lose hope. So we shall start by looking at the normal before we focus on what has gone wrong, so that we have a better appreciation on what diabetics will be going through. How God created everything is like when you eat and digestion occurs, some of your food sources are going to release glucose as their final product of digestion. So this glucose is then absorbed from the stomach into the bloodstream. From the bloodstream now, it has got to enter body cells so that it is utilized. On the other hand, there is an organ called pancreas. The role of the pancreas in the body is to make and secrete the hormone called insulin. The role of insulin in the body, again, it goes and binds to body cells. And when insulin binds to body cells, it enables these body cells to take up glucose from the blood to enter the body cells so that it can be utilized. So this is the normal thing that should happen to us. But if something disturbs this whole cycle, then we can be diabetic. So which points exactly can be disturbed? Number one, it can be on the pancreas itself, whereby the pancreas is destroyed. So if the pancreas has been destroyed, it means we no longer have the workshop to produce the insulin we need. That means the person no longer has got insulin, and because they no longer have insulin, it means they can no longer again remove blood glucose from the blood into the body cells, because there's no signal for the cells that please take up glucose from the blood. So by that, the person will continue to have an elevated blood glucose level because the pancreas has been destroyed and they cannot make insulin. These are the diabetic patients referred to as type 1 diabetes mellitus. And usually its onset, in fact, its onset is in childhood. It is an early onset, and it's associated with thin people, and it's also associated with people who've got a autoimmune disease already, like when your body immune system fights your own body. Okay, where else can the disturbance occur? It could be possible that the pancreas is okay and the pancreas is secreting its hormone insulin, but now insulin is failing to enter, but now the glucose is failing to enter the body cells. That means in as much as insulin is there, but the body cells are failing to recognize the insulin, it means still they cannot get the signal to take up the glucose that is in the blood. So these patients have got problems with sensitization, insulin sensitization. They have the insulin, but the insulin is not working. So they're referred to as type 2 diabetes, and it has got a late onset in the elderly. This is the type of diabetes we find in our grannies, and also it is associated with obesity. People who are obese would develop type 2 diabetes as a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. And there's also another diabetes referred to as gestational diabetes mellitus. This one occurs in pregnant women who previously were not diabetic, but in their second trimester of pregnancy, they are found to be having elevated blood sugar levels, but it then resolves on its own after they have given birth. So these are the types of diabetes that we have. From what I have described, I'm sure we can now define what diabetes is, and it is now easy to understand. So it brings us to the definition of diabetes is a long-term condition in the body in which the body's ability to produce and to respond to the hormone insulin has been impaired, resulting in elevated blood sugar levels. What are the risk factors for one to be diabetic? We already mentioned of obesity is one of the risk factors for type 2 diabetes. Family history, if there's a family history of diabetes, one will be also at risk of developing diabetes in life. Also, if there's a history of gestational diabetes mellitus, which I've described, that a pregnant woman who becomes diabetic, but the diabetics will then resolve after giving birth, still the woman will remain at a risk of developing diabetes type 2 later on in life. So these are some of the main risk factors, and also lifestyle, which we're going to talk about later on. So this brings us to the end of our first presentation of getting familiar with what diabetes is about and the risk factors of diabetes. Let's meet again on episode 2 of 5 of the Diabetic series. Thank you for watching.